My fellow board members, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the official meeting of this board for March. We're delighted to have you all. We have quite a full agenda, and we will be expediting that agenda as quickly and smoothly and effectively as we can. I call now for the approval of the agenda. If there are no objections, the agenda will stand approved. Objections once, twice, 3 times, the agenda is approved.
If we could call on Dr. Haggerty, please. It's fortunate to be at your school this evening, and we'll let you present about the school and your fine bellboys over here.
They're going to introduce themselves first, and then I'll follow up. Thank you.
Good evening. We are the Crosswell Drive Bellboys. We would like to introduce ourselves. I'm Jared Logan. I'm in the 4th grade.
My name is Nasir Frank, and I'm in the 3rd grade. What I like doing outside the Bellboys is playing Fortnite.
My name is Kimori. I'm in the 5th grade, and what I like to do outside of Bellboys is art.
My name is Jeremiah Tate, and what I like to do outside of school is dance and sing. My name is Yamars Ransom. What I like to do outside of Bellboys is play Game Bees, and I'm in the 1st grade.
My name is Marcus. I'm in the 4th grade, and what I like to do outside of Bellboys is play basketball.
My name is Trevante. I'm in the 3rd grade. What I like doing out of Bellboys is playing football.
My name is Edgar. I'm in the 4th grade, and what I like doing outside of Bellboys is playing sports with my friend.
Our directors are Miss Jocelyn Goff and Miss Tabitha Haskins Merkel. Tonight we would like to share 2 spirituals with you. Spirituals come from African American history, and we nearly lost groups of musicians like the Fisk Jubilee Singers. Saved the spiritual, wrote it down, and made it what it is today. We will be playing all night, all day, and go tell it. We hope you enjoy.
On behalf of Croswell Drive Elementary students, staff, and families, I would like to say welcome to our magnificent school. Please give another round of applause to our bellboys. Thank you. They are a unique ensemble of talented young men. They have bright futures ahead of them. My name is Dr. Sean Haggerty, and I'm the principal of Croswell Drive Elementary. I wanted to take this time to talk to you a little bit about Croswell. I know you have a long agenda, but I want you to know we've developed a 5-year plan, and we're already a year in, and our goal at Croswell Drive Elementary is in 4 years to be in the top 10th percentile of every single elementary school in the entire state of South Carolina. So that is our goal. Thank you. We have phenomenal teachers, we have phenomenal families, we have amazing students, we have a great partnership, which is very important. Business partnerships are very important. Thompson Family of Industries is our partner. Without them, we could not have done a lot of things. They attend our leadership meetings, and they are right next to us when we decide on leadership strategies and advocacy for our building. So it is very important that business partnerships remain, and that businesses in the audience partner with any school and every school in the entire district. The County Council is looking for that as a goal. I'm only going to take a few minutes to speak to the board directly as an advocate for this building and for the district as a whole. Please understand that your decisions have a resounding ripple effect across the district. I ask as an educational advocate and leader that you treat each decision as a monumental action. Individually decide for the collective good, and always keep students at the center of your moral and ethical compass. That is your obligation. Thank you for your visit, and enjoy your stay here at Croswell. Thank you.
All right.
The next item on the agenda is special recognitions, and Shelley Galloway will be doing this part of our presentation.
Good evening, Chairman Canty, Vice Chairman Baker, Interim Superintendent Debbie Ham, members of the board. As you know, we have phenomenal talent throughout Sumter School District, and tonight Sumter High School is in the spotlight. So if Ms. Sandor and Troy Cato will please come forward. Troy, sorry. Is Troy here? Okay, they must all have practice tonight, so she is going to receive all of these certificates on behalf of her directors. But the Sumter High School Jazz Band, under the direction of Johnny Powers, earned a superior rating at the Jazz Performance Assessment held at Newberry College. The ensemble was judged by 3 national judges, and they received the highest rating available. That's certificate number 1. We have 2 more recognitions as well. 33 Sumter High School band students under the direction of Troy Cato participated in the Region 5 Band Clinic at Cane Bay High School in Summerville, South Carolina. And 1 student will participate in the All-State Honor Clinic March 15th through the 17th at Furman University in Greenville. And we have 1 more. The Sumter High School Indoor Percussion Unit, under the direction of Troy Cato, received first place at the Audrey Kell High School Indoor Competition in Charlotte, North Carolina. So congratulations to Sumter High School on a job well done. Now at this time, will Melissa Jackson and her principal, Dr. Shirley Gamble, please come forward. Melissa is a teacher at Crestwood High School, and she received the Winthrop University Jesse Williams Little Leading the Way Endowed Award, which recognizes South Carolina educators who have made significant impacts as mentors to future or beginning teachers. Nominations poured in from across South Carolina for public school teachers who stand out for their guidance. And Melissa received $2,500 and a banner to display at her school. Congratulations, Melissa.
I think Sumter High School has a certificate, so I'm sure they can be friendly about making that
Share all the recognition.
making that work.
Yes. Let's give all of our award winners a round of applause.
As we drive the agenda, we have 5 persons signed up for public participation. You'll be given 3 minutes each. We'll start with Ms. LaVonda Johnson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to address you tonight. Approximately 2 years ago, this district was placed under financial watch by the state board. That action was the result of the district's financial deficit, and the district was advised to provide an action plan that would show financial stability. A very elaborate plan was sent to Columbia that included terminating positions, reorganizing the district, leveling positions, and closing schools to include Maywood. This plan was accepted in Columbia. The school closure phase started less than 1 year ago, and now you are voting to reopen it. Why, I ask? Is our fund balance at $12 million? Is the district fiscally prepared to reopen and sustain? Please provide answers before disrupting our district again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Shanika Cooper.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Last school year, the board voted to close Maywood. This was the advice or the plan presented by the previous superintendent, who is now a part of the board. He and the consultant that was hired to review why the district was $6 million plus in the red. That plan was to implement in phrases, and it is going well. Under the leadership of the intern superintendent, the district, in my opinion, has begun improvements intended by that plan. 5 members of the board were elected in November 2018 and January 2019. 5 new with no history and 2 with history voted to reopen Maywood. What motivated you to make that decision? The children, the parents, the cost, what the item asked, and we are still waiting for your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dwayne Button.
Good evening, Chairman Canty and the trustee of the Sumter School Board. Reopening a school requires the same amount of planning as it did to close it. For Maywood, when will parents, students, teachers, bus drivers, and staffers be notified? When will the school renovations begin, and how much will this cost? What will the students' enrollment numbers be? Will the parents be given the opportunity to say no, leave their children where they are, or will they be able to exercise school choice with the understanding that they'll provide their own transportation? And will all of this be ready for the 2019-2020 school year? And also with opening and hiring new bus drivers and staffers, it's been my experience this year that we've been short bus drivers. I've had my children waiting at the bus stop for 35, 40 minutes past the time the bus is supposed to be there, and calling me at 4:30, 4:35, telling me that the bus hasn't come yet. And when I call the school or call the supervisor over the buses, they're telling me that they're short-staffed. So how is bringing in more or opening the other schools, are we going to bring in more bus drivers, and how are we going to pay for that when we're not fully staffed at this time? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. J. Lingenfelter.
Good evening, Chairman Canny, board members. First, I'd like to commend you on your selection of Dr. Penelope Martin Knox as the next superintendent. I'm confident she will be a great addition to the district and the Sumter community. But now I want to ask, how did you who voted to reopen Maywood come to your decision? How did you who voted come to it logically? This decision after you haphazardly and wrongfully voted out it in January. How did you come to your decision in spite of just receiving all the financial and other information that indicated you should not vote to reopen Maywood? This decision coming after many of you stated that you were either confused or did not understand several things you had just been told. This coming after you asked numerous questions that could not be answered at the board meeting before you voted, but yet you still continued to vote headstrong. R.E. Davis College Prep Academy is still one of the lowest enrollment schools, even as a K-8 school. How can you say that you fairly and openly came to the decision and did not already have your mind made up regardless of the information you received that night? I say that you already had conspired to vote that way, whether you admit it or not. I guess all communities that have about 125 to 150 students need an elementary school and a middle school. Never once did anyone ask, how can you save money by keeping everyone at R.E. Davis and actually moving Brewington Academy as was supposed to have taken place? You did not look at any of those solutions. Of those who voted to reopen Maywood, I don't recall anyone offering suggestions or asking questions how you can make it succeed at R.A. Davis. I have spoken to some at R.A. Davis, and they believe it can succeed and excel if given the opportunity that you won't give them. Let me remind those of you who were just elected, nobody received more than 40% of the vote. That means at least 60% voted for someone other than you. You do not have a mandate of the people that you represent in your communities. Therefore, I ask that you freely give up your annual $7,200 a year pay for sitting on the board and pay for the cost yourselves to reopen Maywood and for the attorney fees that you have begun to accrue in your appeal. As you take up F.J. Delane on tonight's agenda, I preface the topic with this. Should any of you vote to reopen F.J. Delane as an elementary school, I hereby formally request that each of you submit your resignation before the night's meeting is adjourned. Again, if you want to be forward-thinking and actually get something positive done, look at rezoning the district and putting a middle school in the Cherryville F.J. Delane so they don't have to travel all the way to Furman. I challenge you to be an advocate for the children at the state level. Did anyone speak to Representative Brawley when she came down at Cherryville last month? None of you were there. I was there. Ms. Brenda Williams was there, and several of us were there, but none of the board members were there. Have any of you talked to any of the state legislators about the reform bill that just passed? I don't believe you have, as far as I know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Williams?
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman and board members. Brenda Williams is my name, retired medical doctor, Sumter, South Carolina. My group, the Family Unit Incorporated, wishes to commend you board members for having the stamina, the courage, the tenacity to stand up against the forces that are demanding the closure forever of Maywood and the closure forever of Delane. Those were decisions that were undemocratically made last school year to close those schools. Now you're doing the right thing. In all the 37 years I've been in town, I have never seen a board with the courage and tenacity to go up against a state board, which has no business anyway in local affairs. State board has no authority to take people out of elected office. These members before us were elected by the electorate of Sumter County. Thank you very much. And the only people that can remove you from your office are the electorate of Sumter County. So keep on doing your job. Lastly, $20 million is scheduled to be spent on a brand new technical high school. You're talking about saving money? Save $20 million and stop the plans in building that high school and build up the technical school that we have already on McCrae's Mill Road by the name of Sumter Career and Technology Center. They need your help. We don't need another technical high school to spend millions of dollars on. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you. Item 6, interim superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to start by spotlighting our school social workers. Last week was actually School Social Worker Week, since we didn't have a board meeting last week. We're going to recognize those folks this week. We have Cindy Jennings, Beth Powell, and Cynthia Josie, and I've invited them to come and let you know a little bit about the work, the fine work that our school social workers provide.
Thank you for your time, Chairman, members of the board. Is this loud enough? I'm Beth Powell, and this is
Cindy Jennings. Welcome. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
My name is Cynthia Josie.
And we thought we would do a fun little presentation. You do have handouts that give you an idea of the duties that we provide as school social workers. I'm just going to have to change it.
We're all Title I school social workers, and we're all licensed school social workers with the state of South Carolina, as well as we have certificates with the Department of Education. We've all been with the school district for over 20 years, and the three of us would just like to give you just a short overview of what we do.
Amy, can you hit? Thank you. Okay, as the science of psychology asks you, do you believe your glass to be half empty or half full? The framework for social work asks a person to allow, may we help you refill your glass? And one of the things that we as school social workers do is we work with families and children, with teachers and administrators, to help them figure out a way to be more successful in school. We work from an empowerment standpoint, and we try to find strengths to help our children be successful in school. This is a time that families are in a state of change, and many of our children are having great difficulties learning. We have a lot of behavioral issues that are coming from problems at home, and the children are exhibiting them at school. One of the things that we as social workers are able to do oftentimes is get involved and work to get to the root of the problem. We do work with parents, and oftentimes the parents are very open to allowing us to help them with their children.
So you know, you're a social worker, your idea of self-care changes daily. Eating a tub of ice cream, yoga, cleaning your basement, getting your nails done, sorting through mail, binge watching TV, jogging, etc. Basically, this is just a fun way of us telling you to make time for yourselves. I don't think any of us have had our nails done in quite a while, but self-care, it helps you to care for your students. It helps teachers care for students. It helps us to care for teachers. It helps us to care for administrators, for anyone who is in need of school social work services. And that is any student in the district, any parent in the district, and that's what we are here in the district for, and that is to help. And we really want to emphasize that helping portion.
And sometimes we do in-services with our faculty and staff. I was fortunate recently to be able to do one with one of my schools. A very stressful situation had occurred, and so the principal asked me to do an in-service with the teachers, just to work with them and to sort of de-stress and just sort of bring the family together. And so we had a very successful in-service with working on some de-stressing techniques, and we made stress bottles, and we just did some fun kind of things, and we laughed together. Dr. Williams was there for part of it, but he missed our silly songs, I'm sorry to say. But anyway, I think that the teachers did get to laugh together, and I think it was successful in helping to break down some of the seriousness of what had happened. Amy?
All right, I'm not sure if any of you have had a day like this. It says, today's forecast, scattered interruptions and 150-mile-per-hour gusts of anxiety with a high chance of losing my sanity before 3 p.m. So, one of the things that we go into a...
We picked her specifically for this.
Okay. I can pretty much say I think I'm an organized person, and a lot of times I'll go in and have a schedule, as a lot of us do. We have our agenda, we have our things we want to get done that day. I want to see my students and catch up with those teachers that I'm trying to catch up with. But then I may get a phone call from Kathy Morrison at the district office, and we may have a crisis at one of our schools, and we may have something that is much more important that day. And so what we do is we respond to those emergencies. We're a part of the emergency crisis team. So whenever we do have something happen that needs immediate response, we go to those schools, and we're there to help support our teachers and our faculty, our staff, our children, to let them know that we're there beside them and we're with them. And as Beth said before, having that family atmosphere is so important during those times of crisis. And we know that we have had some students that we have lost. We've had faculty members that we have lost. And so we're there to help support and go through grief counseling with them and be there as long as they need us to be there. So we appreciate Kathy and all her work that she does. We know that's such an important thing, and we're all a part of that team working together.
Person who feels appreciated, excuse me, will always do more than what is expected.
One of the things we know is that as we help to empower people, you get a lot more from them than you expect. And the higher the expectations, the more people rise to what you expect them to do. And you can think about that in terms of students. But one of the things we as social workers know is it also helps with parenting. And when you expect parents to work with you as a team member, you often get a lot more bang for your buck. So we do try to get parents on our team, and we also do help to try to get teachers to see parents as part of the team, and also to see students from a perspective of this child is able to do what you expect. If you have low expectations, you're not going to get much from the child. If you have high expectations, you will get more. Of course, the other thing that we know too is all of us as adults, the more we feel appreciated, the better job we do. So we do try to appreciate our teachers as much as we can. And of course, we encourage our administrators to appreciate their teachers, and we try to appreciate all of the people that we work with. That's it. Share the love. And happiness is working together to achieve a shared goal. And we picked this one because we love being a part of the educational team, and we do feel like we are a valuable part of the educational team. We know we're not teachers, but we do feel like that we help teachers, we help parents, and we do feel like that we add something to the learning process, especially because our world today is so different from how it was 20 years ago. And you all can add there.
We provide that school-home connection as well as community connection, where we are assisting with several projects in the district, including one called Treasure Chest, which has come about from generous donation from someone who saw a need that basically some of our parents and students were not able to provide for students. And through that program, we're able to go out and get essentials for students so that they don't feel left out, that their sneakers have holes in them or that they don't have a jacket for that day. And we also work closely with other community charities, such as the
United Ministries, Salvation Army. We also are part of multidisciplinary teams with DSS, with the Domestic Violence Coalition in Sumter. So we represent the district on those teams throughout our community. All right. We would also like to thank. We know that we would not be able to do our job without y'all's support and also support of Dr. Ham and also Ms. Arthena Woods, who's our Title I director, and Dr. Fall, who's over Student Support Services. Without their resources and the support that they give us every day, we would not be able to do what we do in helping our families and our children. So we thank you all very much.
I want to say a special thank you to you. Oftentimes you go into some of the very most difficult situations with a good heart and lots of help. We appreciate that. And our students aren't going to learn unless their basic needs are taken care of. You help make that happen. And we know that learning is about the affective side as well as the cognitive side, and the wraparound services that you provide are really essential. So thank you, and I commend you for your good work. And I don't know if these folks have questions or not.
I have one question. With the district experiencing a tragedy at Crestwood High School, do you all feel that you have the resources necessary to serve those students as well as the students at Hillcrest Middle?
Yes. But we are Title I social workers, so we are assigned to the Title I schools. However, we are on the crisis team, so we serve all schools for crisis. We are all trained to work with all ages. We're licensed practitioners by the state. And so we have training in crisis management, in trauma management, and we're Red Cross certified as well as certified by the state.
So yes, we have the ability to respond to the crisis, but I don't want to speak to your question. I feel like maybe there's another part of the question.
Do you feel that you have the resources necessary to serve our students at Hillcrest as well as Crestwood? Do you have the resources?
So to answer that question would be short-term, yes. Long-term, no.
Thank you all for what you do.
And I'll just jump in and say, I think if you ask our principals and our teachers, they would say these services are really important and they would like to have more social workers available in the district. See the heads nodding out there, yes.
Ladies, anyone else? Ladies, thank you so very much for the work that you do. That was a shout from heaven.
The next item on the agenda is Csi and Priority Schools. And I just kind of want to take you back several meetings ago. There was a presentation on the new report card system, and then a little school report card system, and then a little bit later there were some questions about our priority schools. And I thought it would be helpful just to do a quick overview of the state system for you and to give you a little bit of information. You have it all in handouts that are in your packet, so I'm not going to go into tremendous detail or read to you, but I'll try to highlight some key information. It used to be that schools with the greatest need were called priority schools. That has changed. They're now priority schools and comprehensive support and improvement schools, as well as targeted support and improvement schools called TSI schools. These levels of intervention on the part of the state were put in place partly as a response to a federal requirement for Title I schools and partly in response to the state's desire to help students succeed based on the needs that were identified through the school report card system. So Sumter School District has two CSI schools, Comprehensive Support and Improvement Schools. Those two schools are Pocalla Springs and R.E. Davis, and you'll see information about those on the third page of your handout. I want to point out, if you look at that third page, that there were improvements in these schools between 2017 and 2018. So it's not that these schools are continuously decreasing in achievement, but nonetheless, there are areas that could be improved. On the next page of your handout, there's a listing of the report card rating categories and the number of points that those two schools got on their report card ratings. One of the things I'll point out to that, if you're on the page that says report card ratings for those two, is that Pocalla Springs got 0 points for school quality, and R.E. Davis got only 3 points for school quality. That is a brand new measure. It's from Advanced Ed, and it's actually a student survey result, and it is a survey that looks at student engagement. It's brand new. We're learning more about it. And basically, it looks at whether students are engaged in learning from an engagement standpoint or a compliance standpoint. So I haven't memorized the survey questions, but compliance would sound like, I study in my class so that I'll get good grades or so that I'll pass the class. An engagement response on the survey would be choosing something like, I study in class because I like what I'm learning in the class, or because I enjoy the class, or I find the content interesting. And so as we learn more about the language of this and really do learn more about how we can use the results of these assessments to improve student engagement, we'll be able to improve these results. If you're a comprehensive support and improvement schools, there are certain things that you must do. The state has, well, first of all, you get an improvement coach that's assigned by the state. You have to complete a school needs assessment, that again is a state assessment plan. You have to participate in certain professional learning, and you get both federal and state funds to help support improvements in the school, which is a really nice benefit, actually, of getting that designation. We have 4 priority schools, and those are Cherryville, Croswell, Furman, and Lakewood. And if you look on that sheet, every place you see a check, it means the school improved in that area, on the one that shows the improvements from 17 to 18. But nonetheless, when you look at the report card ratings on the next page, you'll see that there are some areas that were low. And again, for this group of schools, one of the big deficits is in this survey. And I don't want to make it sound like we don't need to improve academic achievement and student growth in these schools. Of course, we can always improve that. But one of the really determining factors in their status were these low ratings on the survey. If you're one of these priority schools, you get state funds to help with the improvement, which is a nice benefit to our schools. And the supports that were required for the comprehensive support and improvement schools are no longer mandated, but they're available to the schools to use. So they do get benefits to work towards the school improvement. And I think as you listen to Croswell and their goal not only to, not be a priority school any longer, but to be among the top 10% of the state and to have a 5-year plan for getting there, you know the commitment and the belief that these schools are going to improve and that they won't be in this category the next time around. So I want to commend them for their work, and I'm confident we're going to see improvements. We don't, oh, by the way, we do not have any targeted support and improvement schools. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yes, sir. On these sheets, the blank spaces, like, are those that we maintain or regress or what?
We did not improve, so it could have been maintained or it could have gone down.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It seems, I want to make a statement and then maybe ask a question, but it seems to me that we didn't have a good understanding of the survey by these scores, and I'm sure that next year we will emphasize the survey and perhaps go over the survey with our students ahead of time so they'll be better prepared to answer it more accurately.
Advanced Ed's actually doing a workshop in the next couple of weeks to talk specifically about the survey. And I do think as we learn more about that, we'll see that part of the report card rating improve. It wasn't just Sumter. There were issues and concerns about lack of understanding across the state. And I point that out as a particular weakness, but I also want to say, of course, these schools want to take advantage of the opportunities to improve academic achievement and to make academic progress.
And if I could follow up, then the report card rating system did change for this year.
That's correct.
For last year.
That's correct.
So we had to deal with new standards, so to speak, a new rating system.
Yes, sir.
And now, usually when that happens, scores tend to go down statewide. Did that happen?
Yes, it did.
So in some instances, we went down, but so did everybody else pretty much in the state of South Carolina.
I don't know about everybody else, but yeah, that's
on the average. On the average, scores went down statewide.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
There was more rigor in this system.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. Next item.
Next item is Me Too. This is the inclement weather makeup and forgiveness. And again, in your packet, there's a list of the dates that we missed. We missed September 11, 12, and 13, and 14 due to Hurricane Florence, and October 11th due to Hurricane Michael. We made up 3 of those days, October 22nd, January 18th, and February 18th. Having those 3 dates in our calendar is a requirement of law that we have 3 inclement weather days built into our calendar. So we did use those days. And I'd like to make a request that you forgive 2 days. That would be 14th of September and 11 October. You actually have the ability to forgive up to 3 if you wanted to as a board, but I'd like to recommend that you approve forgiveness of 2.
All right, any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Around the district.
Oh, yes, right. First of all, I want to mention Cherryvale Elementary School. Cherryvale's been selected, and it's really a very prestigious honor to be the host of the state site visit for Arts and Basic Curriculum Project, and that'll happen on March the 28th. And that'll bring about 175 elementary educators from all around the state of South Carolina to attend a meeting there. As an ABC school, Cherryvale's worked diligently to implement a quality, comprehensive arts program to enhance its STEM instructional offerings. And board members, you'll be getting an invitation. We'd like to invite you to be at the opening session for that event. We've got some folks to commend for being emerging leaders. Congratulations go to District Administrators Karen Buffalo, who works with our early childhood programs, and Trevor Ivy in our HR department. They were recently recognized by South Carolina ASCD as emerging leaders. That was a recognition that happened at the spring conference of ASCD. That program is designed to prepare younger, diverse educators for potential influence through leadership and policy. We have a student, Travis Johnson, that's a familiar name, at Crestwood High School, who's been invited to represent Black River at the Washington Youth Tour. He'll be one of approximately 70 students from South Carolina to visit the nation's capital, where they'll be joined from 1,500 with 1,500 students from all across the country. And during the stay in Washington, they'll be included in a number of activities. They'll visit congressmen, they'll tour historic sites, and get to learn more about electric cooperatives. We have a teacher, Jasima Panapa, who received her Google Level 1 certification. She is a 3rd grade teacher at Cherryvale Elementary who wants to become more STEM-minded and help the school achieve advanced ed STEM certification. And then this is just a last reminder, on March the 20th, we have an early release day for elementary and middle schools so that they can do their professional development and collaborative planning. Elementary schools will dismiss at 11, middle schools will dismiss at 11:30. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Any questions from around the district? Any questions from around the district? Thank you. We move the agenda to item number 7, discussion of F.J. Delane Elementary School. The floor is open for discussion at this time.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a statement before we get into this discussion. Today, the item published, this weekend, the item published coverage of this meeting and this discussion on F.J. Delane. I think that it is appalling for our chair and our administration to say the administration did not have time to prepare a presentation on this very discussion. There was between February 11th and February 27th when we were placed on a fiscal emergency. 16 days passed and no presentation was even started that the general public could have any knowledge of about what's going on with F.J. Delane or where we should go or where we could go with F.J. Delane. If we're going to say that we're going to be transparent as a board, then we need to be transparent and let the public hear the information so that they don't think that we're just making decisions, grabbing them out the air and making decisions. There is no excuse why there's no presentation prepared for this discussion tonight.
There are a number of ways to answer that, Mr. Board Member. Your motion asked that there be a discussion. You did not ask for information. 2, with all of the matters we have at the moment related to developing an appeal to the State Department of Education as it relates to action taken by this board in voting to reopen Maywood School, the staff and this board has had its hands full trying to process information and to develop a report that will adequately address the issue presented.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm a little perplexed by the previous comment about a presentation, as you are. It was requested we have a discussion. So I'm not sure what the presentation would be composed of, what would be in the presentation. So I'm perplexed by that, but I will offer this as to perhaps generate discussion, is that it seems to me from what I've been told and what I've observed is that the transition from Delane to Cherryvale has gone quite well, and I have not received personally any concerns regarding that, moving those students there from parents, students, or teachers. Thank you.
All right. Further discussion.
I just have a follow-up to that. Yes, I asked at the February 11th meeting for a discussion on Cherryvale for that night. Because of the length of the presentation for Maywood, we agreed to move it to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Even though we're only having a discussion, it will be good for the administration to have prepared something for the public to hear. Because now we're talking amongst one another, but the public still has questions, on why was Delane closed? Why was that community selected for a school closure? Those answers haven't been answered. We got a facility study that talked about the facilities and the systems at Delane, that they don't need any improvements.
Thank you.
And yet the only thing I get is that we're so swamped with everything with an appeal. There was 16 days in between the request for a discussion and a declaration from the State Department of Education. Again, I say that's inexcusable.
You have a right to your opinion.
When it comes to Delane, as a board and as a community, we talk about workforce and economic development. You don't kill communities and expect economic development. Schools are the bedrock of a community. Without schools in our communities, we have nothing. If we want to actually see our county grow, then we have to invest in every community in this county, not just a few. And until we as a board and us as a county council and a city council get that through our heads that we have to invest in every community in every section of this county, we're not going to see economic development in Sumter County. We're not going to develop a workforce in Sumter County. It's not about one particular zip code. It's not about one race of people. It's not about one gender. It's about everyone in Sumter. If we're going to really stick to this one Sumter concept, then we need to address every issue in every community that comes before us.
We can make this very political, ladies and gentlemen, but the reality is schools exist to serve children. When the children are no longer in the area, then the need for the school changes. Now, I will not accept service as a member of this board for the changes, for the migration that's taking place in rural communities. Yes, I'm as committed as anyone else to ensuring that every child in this school district gets a great education. That's why I'm concerned about us spending money on some closed schools when we've got some schools with children 35 in a class. We need to be reducing the size of those classes. And those classes are in some of our most needed communities. It's time for us to be objective about this. I have pleaded, I still plead, let's keep the past behind us. There is too much negativity back there to bring it up. And you can't bring up one thing without bringing up the other. And if we continue to have this conversation, it is not going to be the kind of conversation we want to entertain. Further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I think that part of the problem that we have experienced with the closing of schools, of course, nobody likes to close schools. Sometimes it is necessary, but it was done in great haste last year. Many times when you are closing schools, you give people time to adjust to that. It's a process that can take up to a year before you do it. And this was done in haste. It was that's what's caused the problems at R.E. Davis. Now, I will say this, I have been to Cherryville, and I don't see the same situation there that I have seen at R.E. Davis with the Maywood students there. But the problem there was that we did combine two communities, and we didn't give time for them to adjust to that change. Yes, there has to be change sometimes, but you have to do it in a systematic way, and that was not done. And I've heard over and over how the community has spoken and they don't want these schools reopened, but last year the community spoke that they didn't want the schools closed, and that was ignored. I went to all the meetings, people were very outspoken, they let them know that they did not want that to happen, and it happened anyway. So I think there's some, I know there's disagreement from everybody about this, but there's some reasons for that, and that's because of the way it was done. And now the result at R.E. Davis is not working there.
All right, any further?
That was an urgent type situation. That's why we wanted to get that reversed, because of the safety and the crowding and all those issues that we've discussed.
Yeah. But the discussion of closing the schools started 2 years prior as a part of the plan for the financial recovery of the district after it had fallen almost into bankruptcy.
Mr. Chair, I have a statement I'd like to read. Leaders of the 20th Fighter Wing and military parents with children attending school within the Sumter School District are troubled by the looming repercussions of further reversion of the outlined school consolidation plan. The previous consolidation plans were a step towards alleviating the financial challenges of the school district in an effort to provide a better education for our students. Undoing these efforts will restrict our ability to reassure airmen, soldiers, and their families currently assigned to Shaw and moving to the Sumter community that this district can meet the educational needs of their children. We've received continual feedback from those assigned to Shaw that the school district is one of their greatest concerns when they receive an assignment here. Most importantly, we need to focus on stability for our youth and a high-quality education that leads to a productive and a prosperous future for our students by allowing the consolidation plan voted on by the previous board to run its course. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Further discussion.
Mr. Chair. Yes, sir. We keep saying that we closed schools. We closed one school. Maywood, the building, is still yet to be closed. There's 150 kids going there every day. I don't know if the public knows that or not, but there are. Now, if we were really going to close that school and really going to save money, that would have been one thing. And we had the opportunity. We could have taken those kids. We could have taken them up to Haynesworth at the old Powell Academy. But we had a local attorney who didn't like that idea. We have some people in that area that didn't like that idea. So they're still out there and the building is still open. We have a middle school right down the road, less than 10 minutes away, that those middle schoolers could have went to. I have a big issue with, and I think most educators would, with mixing elementary kids and middle school kids sharing the same facility. Yes, I know that there's K-8 schools all over the state, but they're not sharing the same facilities. There's barriers. They're not mixed.
Okay. Further comments?
Mr. Chairman, before the decision to close schools was made, there's been reported that the administration looked at fully consolidating the district with redrawing the attendance lines. That was not taken into account. You spoke of earlier about the migration, the rural migration. Rural migration takes place because of lack of investment in areas.
Yes.
It's not because people are leaving the rural areas because there's nothing for them. You don't correct that by removing something that draws people to a community. You reverse that migration by investing back in that community and showing them that they have something to look forward to, something to live for, something to raise a place to raise a family in. If we're going to talk about school closures, then we need to talk about, or school reopenings and closures, however you want to look at it, we need to also look at redrawing the attendance lines for this district. There are kids that can go to F.J. Delane. There are kids that can go to R.E. Davis and Maywood. We have overcrowding in some schools because we're funneling all the the best academic programs into certain zip codes.
Amen.
it was previously stated that kids from the city of Sumter are not going to go to rural Sumter County for an academic program. But you in turn expect kids from rural Sumter County to come to the city to get that same academic program. That's not right. We're not going to sit here as a board and say that we're being transparent and that we're going to provide an equitable education for our students if we don't look at education inequities in this county. It's been going on for too long. And if we're actually going to sit here and talk, and you want to continue with the plan that's been put in place by the previous administration, then we need to look at redrawing the attendance lines to make sure that we're using our facilities the best way possible. Amen. Two of the facilities that we know that are currently closed, well, 1.5 that's closed, are in better condition than those that we currently have students in now on a day-to-day basis. So we need to look at our facilities, the way that we're using them, and we need to look at redrawing the attendance lines, because there are children that can go to these schools. We all know that money follows the child. Well, the same money that's following these kids to the schools that are experiencing overcrowding will follow those children to the schools that have low enrollment.
Amen.
Any further comments?
And I agree. That's why I said that a lot of this was done in haste. We do need to look at rezoning so there is more equitable distribution of our resources.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
You know, technology has changed the world, and it's still changing. And I just want to reiterate what our chairman said. We have schools in places where there are children. And those schools, like Maywood and R.E. Davis and Delane, in recent years have had lots of empty spaces in them because technology has changed where people live and the kind of work they do. And 20, 30 years ago, there were lots of folks farming out in the country, and you know what's happened to the family farm. My dad was a farmer. The family farm has disappeared. Where there used to be row crops, corn and soybeans, there are now pine trees in many places. When it used to take 20 people to operate a farm, it now takes 2 because of technology. Consequently, people don't live in the country like they used to. This is a nationwide trend. You go to the Midwest in the breadbasket of America, and you'll find abandoned farmhouses all over the place. I've been there, I've seen them. We can't change what technology has done to us. Now, if there was work for people to do in the country, people would live there. But the times have changed. People don't live in the country like they used to. They're all moving to the city. It's a nationwide trend. So we have done a demographic study. We have looked at redrawing the lines. You can redraw the lines, and you can put people back out in those schools in the country, but they're going to have to travel farther than they're currently traveling to get to school. There's no two ways about it. It is a mathematical fact that if we redraw the lines and we move people from the city back out into schools in the country, they're going to have to ride longer on the bus than they're currently doing. Now, it is heartbreaking to close a school for a variety of reasons: historical, cultural, ethnic, and in some cases economic. But when I hear the argument that if we close the school, the community is going to dry up, and I mean no disrespect here, but the community's already dried up. That's why there are no kids in the school.
False.
Nobody lives there anymore like they used to. and the row crop land is planted in pine trees. You ride in the country and look for yourself. You can find abandoned houses, empty mobile homes all over Sumter County. It is a harsh reality of life. And unfortunately, it takes money to educate children. And when places where we've got 35 kids in a class, we can't get those numbers down unless we have money to hire more teachers. And when we spend more money on an expensive school for fewer children, we're shortchanging other kids in this county. It is heartbreaking, but it is a economic reality. It is a technological reality, and it's a cultural reality. People don't live the same way and in the same places and have the same jobs they used to. So we have to make changes so that we can keep up with the rest of the world. And it is not easy, it is difficult. But this is not personal. Some folks want to make this personal. Forgive me, but some folks want to make it racial. It is not racial, it is not personal. There are kids of all races in all our schools. And when we spend more on kids in school X than we're spending on school Y, that is not equity. When we have more kids in the class over here in this school and fewer kids in the class over here, that is not equity. This is tough stuff. It's heartbreaking. But we are sitting up here because we were elected to help all the children, not just the kids that live in Area 4, where I live, not just the kids that live in Area 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. We are serving the entire district, 16,500. We have to look at the big picture while we're looking at the individual kid and the individual school. And somehow you have to balance it out. It is not easy. It's heartbreaking. Thank you for your time.
Further discussion.
I have one more thing.
Ms. Ray?
So this was proposed to close schools to save money. From the figures we've gotten, it has not saved very much money. And I know it's in a different pot of money, but it has cost a lot for renovations and that sort of thing. But you're saying that we want to have schools where the students are. You're saying there's no space. Some of those schools that have large classes, they don't have any space left. So are we talking about that we're heading to building some more schools? Because that's going to be the next thing. If we're not going to rezone, we're going to have to put the schools where the students are.
Rezoning, in my opinion, is inedible. We are going to have to deal with that calf one day. We are in the process now of engaging a new superintendent, and hopefully, after she is settled and can build trust in this community, she'll lead us in a discussion of line shifts and rezoning. I think it would be unfair for her to come in here day one with that agenda. We need time as a board, and you need time as a public to get to know her and build trust. I don't think anyone in here is denying the fact that we've got to revisit the lines. We have not done it. This is a historic problem. We consolidated the two districts, but in reality, the two districts still exist, 17 and 2, because not a single line has been redrawn. That needs to take place. Prayerfully, our new superintendent will have the vision, and the board will have the vision and the tenacity to take on that elephant, because it is a major elephant. Because everybody, including some of you sitting up in here tonight, believe that your school is your school. And you aren't really willing to give up your school for another community. Building new schools, I think it's going to be inevitable at some point. We've got schools 60 years old. 60. We've got some schools 65 years old. But I think all of that is going to have to be addressed after we look at those lines. There's a whole lot to be done to make consolidation work that has not taken place yet. And so we've got to continue this work. And when you talk about migration, if we're honest about it, if you look at Sumter County itself is not growing. We're population neutral for the last several years. Some new people are coming in, but some old people are leaving. And so our numbers, while they have not declined sufficiently, they have not increased. And I would dare not say people are not in the rural area. People are in the rural areas. People who love the rural area live in the rural areas. But many of those who live in the rural areas and want to stay there as long as they live will only have grandchildren now or great-grandchildren to go to school because their children are all grown and gone. And we're going to have to face that reality. Okay.
All right. Mr. Chairman, can I just have some final words?
Final word.
I'm glad that you said that there are people in the rural portion of this county. Majority of this board represents rural Sumter County. But it's also interesting to hear people say, let's move forward. It's not racial. It's not about the rural versus the suburban or urban areas. But all of those things are true. Out of those 16,500 plus students that's in this district, a little over 10,000 of those students look like me.
All right.
And I was elected when I took the oath of office. I'm going to represent every child in this district, and I'm definitely going to represent those children that look like me. And the statistics and research shows that smaller class sizes benefit low income and students of color.
Amen.
So yes, we have overcrowding. Yes, we have schools with low enrollment, but we can't, if we close the schools, then what are we gonna do? We close the schools, we come before the public and say, we need money, we need a bond referendum to build schools. But you close perfectly good facilities. So why not, before you close schools, use the buildings that we currently have and retrofit the ones that we currently have before you even have a discussion or an idea about building new schools?
Yes.
We can't move forward as a district until we actually address the things that's been plaguing this district since its inception. We've kicked the can down the road too long since consolidation. If we were fully going to consolidate when we consolidate, then redrawing the attendance line should have been the first order of business. We've gone through now, what are we on, our fourth superintendent since then? Third or fourth superintendent since then? So we're going to keep kicking the can down the road, each superintendent, to say we're going to fully consolidate this district. We can't do it. Mr. Chairman, we as a board have to take action on this. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on. Item 8, executive session. Is there a motion for executive session?
So move.
Oh, you got to state all that.
Oh. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we enter into executive session for the discussion of employment matter regarding the position of superintendent. The receipt of legal advice relating to a pending, threatening, or potential claim.
Did you read the first one?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
You want me to repeat it?
No, if you read it, I'm sorry. Okay. Is the motion supported?
Second.
It's motion and seconded that this board enter into executive session for discussion of the employment matter regarding position of superintendent, receipt of legal advice relating to a pending, threatening, or potential claim. Any objection to the motion or its second? Those in favor will indicate with a show of hands. The opposers, the same sign. It's unanimous. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So move.
Second.
Supported?
Yes, sir.
Motion and seconded that we come out of executive session. Is there any objection to the motion? All in favor will indicate same by the raising of your hands. All who oppose by the same sign. We're out of executive session. Any action as required on executive session matters, there is none. Are we in agreement on that?
Yes, sir.
Are we in agreement on that? Recommendation, is there a recommendation from the superintendent on the inclement weather?
I'd like to request approval to have a pardon of 2 days that we were
Mr.
absent
Chair.
for inclement weather.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation that we forgive those 2 days.
Second.
Motion and second that the superintendent's recommendation be accepted to approve to forgive the 2 inclement weather days. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor will indicate with a show of hands. All who are opposed by the same sign. Carries. Item 10.3, is there any action? Is there any action? Is there any action? Consent agenda, what is your pleasure?
Motion to reset the consent agenda as presented. Second.
It's motion and second that the consent agenda be approved as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor will indicate with a show of hands. Opposed, same sign. It carries. Item 12 is adjournment. Is there any objection to adjournment? Is there any objection to adjournment? Is there any objection to adjournment? We are adjourned at 9:42. I think that's correct.
8:42.
I'm sorry, 8:42.